Aloha and welcome to the Good Day Sally Show. I'm Sally Squires, entertaining the world. Now, I'm going to be reading a couple of stories from my book, Footsteps to Fairy Forest. And you remember that this is about a little girl who finds a map, and on the map there's all these footsteps, 26 footsteps. So each day she sets out with her compass and she finds another footstep. And when she finds the footstep, guess what happens? Another fairy appears. So you won't believe it, but we're already up to footstep number 15. When I went into the kitchen to find Grandma this morning, she was not there. I went to look in her bedroom and she was still in bed. Grandma said she was feeling very tired, so I made her some breakfast and took it into her. I thought I would cheer her up by opening up my map on her bed cover so she could see what today's footstep was. It showed the signpost for footstep 15 was a tiny brown drum. It even had 2 tiny drumsticks lying next to it, but they were so small I knew that I would have to be very careful not to miss seeing them. As I walked in a northwest direction, I could hear what seemed like a tiny bell sounding softly. I wondered if someone had tied a bell to one of the tree branches and it was tinkling in the wind. There was no sign of Willie Watcher today, but a bellbird was perched on one of the tree branches and it sang a sweet song as I walked past it. As the sun was getting warm and rising in the sky, I could see a bright rainbow-coloured spot on one of the tree branches. I stopped to take a look, and much to my surprise, the rainbow dot started to dance. It was very energetic and it kept bobbing its head and raising its tail as it danced. It was such bright colours it seemed as if it had been painted. Once it noticed that I was watching it, it stopped its colourful dance. I was a bit disappointed because it was fun watching the peacock spider, but I knew I should keep going to find the tiny drum and drumsticks that marked footstep 15. Suddenly I could hear a whirring sound, and when I looked up I could see 4 or 5 ladybugs flying along beside me. A few minutes later they all landed on the path in front of me, and as I reached them they moved away and I could see a tiny wooden drum and 2 drumsticks. I turned to say thank you to the ladybugs, but they had disappeared. So I carefully put the drum and drumsticks in my bucket, and then I scraped away the dirt to show the stone for footstep 15. I picked up the stone and held it out so the next fairy could land on it. A few seconds later I could see a red and purple flash, and I knew that the fairy was here. As she landed on the stone, I could see something amazing. She held a tiny green guitar in her hands. She said that her name was Orchenestra, and that she was the musical fairy, and then I fell asleep. So now you know you're going to hear about Orchenestra the musical fairy. Orchenestra looked around. She was ready to start the evening concert, but everything and everyone seemed to be late. The birds were only just arriving at their nesting trees, and it would be some time before they had finished telling all their bird mates about the day's adventures. None of the rabbits had yet come in from the fields. In fact, she could see them still running around the fields eating that last piece of juicy grass before it got dark. The logs were lying down ready for the rabbits to beat their tails on them to create a steady drumming for the concert. But so far there were no rabbits to do the thumping. The squirrels too were late. They were supposed to be ready with their stack of nuts to roll over the smooth stones, but they had not even collected their nuts yet. And even the breeze was late. It was supposed to be here in time to blow softly through the leaves on all the trees to create that strange clacking noise that could be heard all the way through the concert. Orchenestra scratched her head. What was she to do? How long would it be before everyone was ready for this evening's concert? And what was more important was that this evening's concert was, as all the concerts were, a rehearsal for the Queen's special concert. And there was not much time left to rehearse. Then, to top it all off, she could see Wildcat Willie creeping through the bushes with his wildcat eyes, just looking to find a tasty creature to eat for his supper. That just will not do at all, thought Orchenestra. Soon it will be dark, and none of the performers will be able to see me as I conduct them. But first things first, what to do about Wild Cat Willie? Orchenestra reached down into her fairy wand pocket and pulled out her magic fairy wand, which was made of tiny instruments. Then she aimed it in Wildcat Willie's direction and said her magic spell. Unicorn, universe, unusual. Wildcat Willie wandering, snared in spider's silk, snip, snap, snop, snip, snup. Suddenly there was a rustle and movement in the bushes where Wildcat Willie was. Whoosh! And Wildcat Willie found himself netted neatly in a spider's silk web, hanging from the highest branch of the tallest tree. "Help!" he cried. But Orchenestra was not to be moved by his cries. She flew right up next to him and scolded him strongly. "You bad cat," said the fairy, waving her wand at him. "You were stalking the squirrels again, and I have told you so many times that you must not stalk the squirrels. Now you will hang up there until our concert is over and all the squirrels have gone back to their nests so you cannot find them." And she flew down into the dell where she was hoping that at least some of the animals would be ready to start their rehearsal. Gradually the rabbits started to arrive. The adult rabbits arranged themselves along the large logs that had fallen onto the ground. All the baby rabbits sat quietly waiting for their turn on the smaller branches. They loved these concert rehearsals, even though they had all been late today. They had never been to a Queen's special concert before, and they were eager to be part of it for their first time. At last Grandpa Owl flew down from his nesting branch to tell Orchenestra that the birds were ready to begin the rehearsal. And finally the breeze started to blow, so the fairy could hear the clack, clack, clack of the leaves. But it was so late that none of the animals could see Orchenestra's fairy wand beating time for them to follow. After several tries to get everyone performing in time, the fairy decided that she needed to try some magic. Waving her silvery wand over the assembled performers, she said, "Unicorn, universe, unusual. Fireflies are lighting on all. Concert creating correctly. Sing, song, sung, sang, sang." And a minute and a second later, thousands of bright fireflies flew down from the trees and swept around in a circle in front and around Orchenestra, so that all the concert performers could see her perfectly as they sang and thumped and beat time. So that was the story of Orchenestra, the musical fairy. You know, Hawaii is a microcosm of the world, with people here from all over the world. And Noa Noa Hawaii is a microcosm of the traditional arts of the world, with beautiful patterns from many countries. They've been in business for more than 40 years with wonderful Hawaii-designed batik clothing. Their hand-dyed and handmade clothes have patterns that are based on traditional kapa and tapa designs from Hawaii, Polynesia, Micronesia, Indonesia, even New Zealand and Africa. So check out the wonderful items that Noa Noa has on their website, www.noanoahawaii.com.